All right, welcome in everyone to another episode of Building the Broncos. I am your host, Carl Dumler, and of course, my good friend, Mr. Nick Kendell, is here again today. Missed you last week, man. It's just, I love all of our other co-hosts, but it's just not the same. It isn't.
I mean, we are some OGs here. I know Chad was obviously here before us, but I had the podcast. I guess I approached Chad to say, you know what, I really want to do a Broncos specific podcast. There's not one out there that I've found, and I just really want to talk about it. And I got this guy, CD Dumler 4. I don't even remember. You had the screen name, or maybe it was just CD Dumler. Oh, CD Dumler 7, maybe. I don't know, but because of Elway. But we started it. It would have been leading up to the Garrett Bowles draft. And here we are today. So, gosh, that would have been 4 drafts ago. We're going strong, and it's matriculated from there. Here we are ramping up to another season. Fingers crossed and excited to do it. I missed you last week, too. I've had a really long week, but things are kind of settling down now. Got job interviews where we're moving to, but fingers crossed on that end, and happy for some normalcy.
Well, good. And I just want to say we did not plan on wearing the exact same outfit pretty much. I don't know.
You always got the collared shirts.
I do.
I got Rock Cut Brewery in Estes Park.
So there you go.
Free ads for them. If you're in Estes Park, good beer. They gave beer to they provided beer. We paid for it, but for Natalie and I's wedding.
Oh, so, that was nice.
Yeah. Gotta drink local, right?
Yeah. So, no, I had to run home. I forgot the hat when I came to my office. And so couldn't forget the good old hat. We'll be talking about that a little bit later to make sure everybody knows where they can get this kind of thing. But I also just want to let everybody know where they can find all of our stuff. But make sure you're following us on Twitter. You can find me at Carl Dumler MHH and Nick at Nick Kendell MHH. And make sure you follow the podcast Twitter account at BTB Football Pod and subscribe to our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts and leave us a rating. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel as well. Right now, I mean, that just helps get us out there even more and allows even more people to join us here in these chats and everything else. So please subscribe. We really appreciate you listening, but it just means so much more if you can click that button for us. But also make sure that you're heading on over to milehighhuddle.com of Sports Illustrated. We have lots of content coming out. And I mean, training camp is here. So you do not want to be missing everything that's going to be coming out. Of course, all of our podcasts, but also know that this podcast is powered by Overtime Media. So we kind of have a fun topic since it is heading into training camp. And the fun thing about training camp always is the battles. I mean, you know the guys who are going to be the starters no matter what. I mean, Von Miller could go have the worst camp ever, and he's still going to be the starter week 1.
He shouldn't even touch the field for camp, honestly. Von, you showed up. Thumbs up. Good job, buddy.
Yep. Wrap him in bubble wrap and call it a day. And Bradley Chubb on the other side, you know, he's going to be a starter. But there are some interesting camp battles that are going to ramp up. And we could talk a little bit about who maybe is going to be the starter week 1, who's going to be the starter week 10, because those could be 2 different answers. And so it is. It's kind of fun to see that the team has at least that kind of depth, that you have a few positions and it's not just because there's no talent, that it's actually that there might be too much talent at a couple of the positions that we're going to talk about. Maybe a couple of the others. Unknowns. Right. Others will be a little bit more unknown. And I like this, those legs of Von Miller.
So before we get going, though, we should say hello to the chat. See everybody who's in here right now. We see Kevin Peterson, Zach's Web Design, James Campbell's in the house, Kenneth Booker. Kenneth, I am feeling better. I'm dealing with an ulcer, so no Nick's Beer Fund, guys. Nick's Tums Fund or Nick's Pepto Fund would be more appreciated. Duke coming in, Duke Boynton. Always good to see you. William Harris, Jerry Holen. Let me see. I saw somebody giving me a hard time in here. Darian P. in the house. Good to see you. I think I already said hello to Terry Randall. Oh, here we go. Charlie Beagle. Charlie, I'm in the process of moving. I'm actually at my parents' house, and it's in their it's in their Colorado room, but that was the most basic, non-messy thing I have in my background. So Carl's got some stuff to look at in there. There's an interesting looking hat. Is that your hat, Carl?
Of course.
That's really nice. It looks like
that's my Sunday best hat, you know. Gotta wear that.
Well, that's you might need to put that on later. Even though your hat you have on right now is great, but great to see you guys in the chat. Before we get going any further, also this is Building the Broncos, guys, on Twitter, BTB Football Pod. Most important thing I think of today, other than, just have a good day, stay healthy, stay safe, but subscribe, like, and share. That's the best thing you can do to support our show. It helps not only our show, but Huddle Up Podcast. It helps the entire Mile High Huddle brand. There's a fair amount of listeners that aren't subscribed to the channel, and that can just help us more than you can even imagine. So we would really appreciate that. If you do like our show, that would mean the world. But Carl, back to everything going on here. Oh, Glenn. Oh, there you go. Did you cut your hair, bro? I don't know if he's talking to me. I don't know who Egon Spengler is, but my hair actually I did get a trim. So
okay.
Yeah, the top's still long, but the sides are not. I don't have the Bozo the Clown going on anymore. And Glenn Hauser is saying, do you get a free bowl of soup with that hat, Carl? So I'm curious about that one as well.
Yeah, of course.
So anyway, on to you. We are talking about the camp battles that intrigue you the most. We kind of went back and forth on this a little bit earlier, and you have one that I am actually very interested in myself, that if you wouldn't have taken it, I would have talked about it.
Well, I think probably the position that I feel really, really good about this year compared to the last couple years. I mean, they've had Derek Wolfe. He's been great. Shelby Harris has had his moments. But just the defensive line right now. I mean, Jarrell Casey's going to be one of the starters. I don't think there's really much question about that. The guy's been a Pro Bowl player at the defensive line position. He's getting paid pretty decent money. They just traded for him, all those kind of things. But, I mean, and he should be a starter. I love listening to Von Miller talk about him today, that there's a lot of times on the practice field, they don't even have to really hardly talk because they just already know. Or they just have to say one thing one time, and then they're like, okay, we're on the same page. And so I love that they're already building some chemistry. But it is that other position, that other spot on the defensive line where you're going to have Shelby Harris and of course, the second-year player for the Broncos here in Draymond Jones. And we've talked about it on this show quite often that we love Draymond Jones. He really showed something there at the end of the year, kind of like Drew Lock showed something at the end of the year. And you're just kind of going, okay, maybe this guy, just that potential. ESPN, they released their an article of the 25 players that could break out this year. Any clue where Draymond Jones was on that list?
Was he 25? Number 2.
Number 2.
Oh, my goodness.
Somebody on there really likes him. I was shocked when I saw it. So, again, there's other people that saw something in his game that were just like, this kid, he could be something. And Shelby Harris, I like Shelby Harris. And I like that he's back because without him, I would be a little bit more worried about the depth. I like McTelvin Ajim, but he's a rookie. He's still figuring things out. College, his position was very fluid, where NFL, he's going to be more on the interior than the exterior. So I'm interested to see what all they can do with him this year, but he's still a year away. And
that's the big thing. I was talking with Buana Beast before this when we came on, because we were just talking about the defensive line in general. And where Ajim is going to play is one of the things I'm most interested in this season. What role is he going to have? His body type, I mean, is he potentially the Mike Purcell replacement? He could probably put on weight and become the nose tackle. I mean, really, he could. That's what he was showing. I thought his best snaps were actually at that nose tackle position in sub packages for Arkansas. And he was put on weight and did that in the Shrine Bowl or the Shrine Game, whatever they call it now, and the Senior Bowl, and looked well there. And talking with Dane Brugler, he said that people were impressed that he put on a bunch of weight and lost zero flexibility and explosiveness in his lower half. So Ajima was interesting. That being said, expectations any more than what Draymond Jones was last year is probably too much.
Yeah. And so, again, just that battle between Draymond Jones and Shelby Harris, I do wonder a little bit. I've said it on here before, I think, just how much, especially not having preseason and having kind of a weird training camp, does that hurt Draymond Jones's chances of becoming a starter week 1? Because they know what they have in Shelby Harris. He started for him last year. He did pretty well, considering. I mean, he even had a position change at some point in the season. What was it, week 4, week 5?
I think so.
Yeah. And so I want to see that battle, but I do wonder if it's going to be more Draymond Jones week 8 becomes the starter. Shelby Harris starts the season just because they feel more comfortable with the veteran.
Yeah, that's a good point. We got to get to the super chat here from Duke Boynton. Shout out to Kenneth Booker. Thank you for all that you do. Yeah, shout out to Kenneth Booker for sure. I think Kenneth might be Facebook friends with me now. So Kenneth, love you. Hopefully you don't mind all my memes, because that's what Facebook is for these days, right? Memes and just shaking your head at family members sometimes. No, but I won't go down that rabbit hole. But yeah, no, I definitely agree with you. I think that Draymond Jones is definitely coming for that starter position. Something you hadn't touched on that we talked about before was that Shelby Harris contract. I think that's indicative to the overall value he actually has. I know that people look at the sack numbers and Bronco fans know him, so there's a little bit more value to him, just of known quantity. But I think Draymond Jones has a really good chance to take that starting edge or starting interior defensive lineman opposite of Casey in the base packages. And Shelby Harris, I think Shelby Harris's best spot is that one technique in sub packages. That's when the 4-man fronts, that one man doesn't have to worry about anchoring so much. You know, he can really just be more of a pressure player. That's probably his best spot. So I think that's a good call. Good call, Carl. I'm really interested to see how that one's going to play out as well. Draymond Jones, I mean, number 2 there, that's a shock, but he's got the juice, man. He's really good with his hands. He came in light from Ohio State, but he looks like he's bulked out a little bit. I mean, even just last year, bulking out, which is good. And if he can still have that spin move that he had at Ohio State, I mean, that could be a good player. And he's in a good position too. I mean, Casey, Von Miller, Bradley Chubb, if you can be that 4th guy, that's a good spot to be.
Yep.
So for me, I think the one that interests me the most actually is the cornerback position. AJ Boye, barring injury, which knock on wood, but barring injury, he's the guy who's probably the most stable there. But then after that, who the heck knows? I think we're pretty safe in saying that Bryce Callahan will be the starting nickel in sub packages, but is he going to be that number 2 cornerback in base package? How much are the Broncos even going to play base? Is it even worth talking about? It's kind of like talking fullbacks at this point, or running backs. Ugh, why do we always talk running backs? But no, that's is he going to be the second cornerback in base? It's possible. I mean, there was talk last year in camp that despite Bryce Callahan's size deficiencies, he was doing really well up against Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick on the boundary. So that's something to watch. I mean, Chris Harris Jr. always thought about being a little small, but he handled it on the outside well, especially in this scheme. You can do it. So Bryce Callahan may be the boundary, but I think in sub packages probably still moves to the slot or the nickel position. So then it's that boundary corner, that third cornerback, but that second boundary corner, I think, is the one that's the most interesting, probably the most interesting battle, in my opinion, on the entire team. Because, I mean, you have Ojemudia, who's obviously a 3rd-round pick, but again, 3rd-round pick, typically year 1, a lot of ups and downs. I mean, Isaac Yiadom was a 3rd-round pick, and people are hoping for, imagine rookie Isaac Yiadom coming in and being expected as the starter. Not that Ojemudia is going to be Yiadom, but that's kind of the slot you're looking at there. I mean, Brendan Langley was a 3rd-round pick. So depending on Ojemudia, based on that precedent, is a little bit scary. Not the same player. Every player is their own individual, but just kind of giving a scope of that range of that type of player you're getting there. So, I mean, depending on him is concerning, I guess, because a little bit of an unknown. You have Bosby, who flashed last year, but, I mean, it was a very small sample size. So that one's concerning. Devontae Harris had some okay plays, but then kind of fell off, especially I think it was that Bills game and the Vikings game. Just did not play well in those 2 games. Really looked bad in those 2 games. And Yiadom still talking about him. So who the heck knows with that second cornerback position? I think right now I would bet on Ojemudia just because I think that he fits the scheme pretty well. He's a good tackler. He's safe. He's not going to get beat over the top. But, I mean, that second cornerback position, draw a name from a hat. I really, no clue.
It is. And I kind of thought of it. Ryan Edwards made a great comment the other day of kind of your tackle bro idea. You know, people coming after you for the Broncos not going tackle and that they should have gone that kind of direction. And he said, do you really think a rookie's going to come in and do like this amazing job? Because Ryan Clady is the exception to the rule. Yeah. Most rookies come in, especially on the offensive line, struggle. Cornerback's another position where a lot of rookies struggle. You see a few of them emerge. Marshawn Lattimore, when he was a rookie, had an outstanding season. I'm trying to think of some others that really, I guess.
Top 10 pick, Marshawn Lattimore.
Right. Patrick
Harris Jr. was first team all rookie.
That's true. That's true.
But you're talking about a rare.
Right. And he still had his struggles. I remember, I think it was that Patriots game that year he just got destroyed. But he struggled a lot against some of the Patriots because they really pick on the nickel cornerback quite a bit. But it just, I'm interested to see how that goes. I really still like Bosby. I was one of those guys who was pounding the table last year that he's my dark horse player that's going to come in and really perform better than people expect. And his couple games that he got in there, he looked pretty darn good. And then, of course, the serious injury, I do wonder a little bit, how much is that going to affect him moving forward? Because especially when you get anything in that neck and spinal cord, man, I can't imagine the next time you take a big hit. Like, are you worried that it's going to affect you? How much does it? Because I know a lot of people, they lose strength when that happens. I did hear, I think it was Vic Fangio was talking about how Bryce Callahan was sick and lost a lot of weight. And so he's working to try to put some of that weight on right now. So there are some worries there of how that's going to play out. I do like, at least there's a lot of names to throw at the dartboard and hope that one of them is going to emerge.
And that's a good point. And I want to emphasize that as well with Ed Donatel, Vic Fangio, and a really good safety duo behind him. I'm confident they can get at least okay cornerback play out of there. But in this division, it concerns me. I mean, we like to poke fun at the Chargers offense all day. I mean, what are they going to look like this year? But Mike Williams and Keenan Allen is a pretty formidable duo. You obviously have the Chiefs, which is just an embarrassment of riches. And the Raiders, I mean, they're honestly might have the weakest wide receivers of the group, but Henry Ruggs' speed is there. And I mean, you might even see Darren Waller last year, but every single chance they had to pair up Darren Waller against that cornerback too, which is going to happen in this defense sometimes when how they play 3-by-1s with that match quarters. Sometimes it can happen. And that was ugly. So I guess that's the position that I'm most interested in, but also outside of right tackle, which I don't need. We can touch on that later. But that's the one that just concerns me the most.
Yeah. And I had somebody ask me, I think it was Buana Beast actually, that he was like, he said, are you going to talk about the right tackle battle? Well, right now, there's really not much of a battle because it is Wilkinson.
Yeah.
All those other guys, I'm sorry, they're not going to start over Wilkinson. And so unless the Broncos bring in somebody from free agency, and I have an article from all of us here at MHH that's going to be coming out here hopefully tonight or tomorrow morning, kind of all of our thoughts on what the Broncos should do, what we'd like the Broncos to do. So I'm kind of excited to see how everybody responds to that and what their thoughts are on what the Broncos should do. But yeah, it's not really a competition right now. It's Bowles and Wilkinson. That's it. And that's a problem.
That makes me nervous because really one of the only reasons I felt okay about the offensive tackle position, didn't feel great, but okay, was because you had the upside of Juwan James, but at least a known quantity of Elijah Wilkinson. And then Garrett Bowles as well, who, I mean, say what you will about him, he sees the field. So, I mean, when you had that trio, I was confident you could get at least passable offensive tackle play. Yeah. Now, if one of those guys goes down, I mean, say your Hail Marys or whatever the heck, you pray to whatever gods you do, you know, it could be an issue. And I know that Eric and I actually were going back and forth a little bit on Twitter about Jake Rogers, but man, I was not impressed. I think he's actually the oldest guy on the offense as well. Jake Rogers is. But just, I don't know, not impressed. So I'm glad that Wilkinson is back, but I'm a little concerned, I guess, just because if one of those guys go down.
Yeah.
Yikes.
If I remember right, Rogers, he had like one good half last year
against the Lions.
Like, oh man, this guy, look at him. And then all of a sudden he just got abused the rest of the time.
This is why sample size is so important.
Right. Exactly. So somebody figures something out, boom, it's over.
Yeah.
So right now, that's not really much of a competition. So let's talk about another competition here. And this is one we're going to kind of feed it into almost two of them combined together. And we'll go to the wide receiver position because, I mean, it's an exciting position right now for the Broncos.
Yes, it is.
You got the two rookies that are coming in that are dynamic beyond what the Broncos have seen in a long time. I'm trying to remember last time we had this dynamic of a wide receiver. I guess maybe a healthy Demaryius Thomas.
Yeah, I think
he's very athletically gifted.
DT, when Peyton first got here, that last season with Tim Tebow, I mean, the freak. You know, He really, the ability, I mean, he wasn't the most nuanced route runner until Peyton kind of hounded him, but the ability to just take a screen and just turn it into a thoroughbred in the open field, that was pretty darn incredible. So
yeah. That, I mean, some of those screen passes obviously just went dominant for him. But
if not him, then Brandon Marshall.
Right. Yeah, probably. But even there, Brandon Marshall wasn't the most athletically gifted. He was he was very.
I consider like size and power a part of athleticism, because he was like a tight end playing wide receiver, and because he had so much size while not being a stick in the mud, that counts.
Yeah.
So it's like, I look at it like grass, like the size matters. So.
Okay. Well, anyway, wide receiver position. This is a little bit just the battle of, again, rookies coming in, trying to make a name for themselves in training camp without any games to really make the coaches believe. Throw in, they haven't been there for OTAs, mini camp, anything that's given them a chance to really work in the offense. They've had to do their own stuff on the side. That's the only reason that this is really a huge, huge deal for the Broncos this year, and why you could see guys like Tim Patrick be a starter week 1. That, I mean, they're going to be in a lot of 3 wide sets. So we're looking at 3 wide receivers as starters right now. I think Jerry Jeudy probably going to be a starter just because first round pick. You want to get that on the field, but I can see him being more of that slot guy day 1. Cortland Sutton, obviously going to be a starter. And so it's figuring out that third wide receiver. Who's going to be the other third one on the field? Are they going to take a chance, put Jerry Jeudy on the outside, have 2 rookies on the field at the same time with Hamler?
That we talked about it before the pod, I think, but that's a week 1 versus week 10 question.
Yeah, it is.
And are we discounting Deshaun Hamilton?
Maybe a little. I mean, if you want to have Jerry Jeudy at the Z, Deshaun Hamilton at the slot, he was building a little bit of chemistry there at the end of the season with Drew Lock. I mean, he was getting himself open, finding the holes in the defense when they were really focused there on trying to stop Fant and Sutton. Hamilton kind of became that next guy. Tim Patrick was the big play guy that he found himself in a lot of one-on-one going deep down the field. So, but then also, I mean, this kind of plays into whatever you want to talk about next. But I guess let's finish the conversation on the offensive side of things with the wide receiver position. But I guess for me, if I had to make a guess right now, I really do think Tim Patrick on the outside, Jerry Jeudy at the slot, Cortland Sutton at the X. I just think they're going to want that size on the field. They're going to want that guy that already has a little bit of chemistry with Drew Lock, and a guy that knows what it means to be in the NFL.
And I think there's something to be said specifically about Jerry Jeudy, and he mostly played the slot at Alabama, and in a weird offseason, not only as a rookie, but in a weird offseason, maybe that's going to be his best fit. I mean, I think long-term, you hopefully project him as a Z. But day 1, maybe not. Maybe coming in as the slot where he's played majority of snaps at Alabama, doesn't have to worry so much about the press, which, I mean, you see him get off the ball in those, or get off press in those practice videos, but it's a little different when, you don't have as many steps, as much space as you do in the practice field. So it'll be interesting to see. I definitely think that's a possibility. I do hope that we see Hamler out there at some point, just because I'm really excited about that explosiveness, but we'll see. And that, again, right into my next point here. I think that low-key camp battle that I'm interested to see is the punt returner battle. Obviously, last year the Broncos brought in Deontay Spencer, the pride of Canada. I'll just say that for the heck of it. Played the CFL, but became a Pro Bowl alternate, or made the Pro Bowl as a punt returner. Guys, Pro Bowl doesn't matter. Don't use that to argue for anything. One of the Broncos reporters, I won't even say the name, but I don't even care who said it, but they were talking about a Pro Bowl as like something as a reason this person was more valuable or not. Like using the Pro Bowl. Trevor Siemian was a Pro Bowler. Get out of here. Yep. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Sorry. It's sad. It's fun for the players, but don't use it as an accolade when judging players. But Deontay Spencer, he's got speed, not a receiver really. I mean, we saw that last year. They tried to implement him in the offense to add some explosiveness. Just doesn't track the ball well, doesn't have good hands. Just he's a special teamer. But because of the roster math and because of, again, the weird offseason, not really getting a chance to see the development maybe you'd normally see of rookies, even though they'd be behind the 8 ball anyway. KJ Hamler, I mean, they talked about it. KJ Hamler is going to get a chance to make the punt return team. I think that's a battle I'm really interested in. Deontay Spencer is going to have to earn it, but it's also as much to do with KJ Hamler's role in the offense right away. Is he going to be brought along slowly? Because again, weird offseason, rookie, just the roster math. And does that mean they're going to put KJ Hamler there? Who KJ Hamler's got good speed. He just actually, the punt returning wasn't as good as I thought it would be. It was actually, I preferred his kick returning. Once he got the open field and had a lane, then you see him zip. Not as much the punt returning, which is surprising. So that punt returning battle, I know it's definitely not as exciting as, talking about the battle between Melvin Gordon and Philip Lindsay, or what's going to happen at what's another interesting one. I mean, heck, the depth at linebacker position, third edge rusher, who the heck knows? But that punt return one, just because we can talk a little bit of explosiveness, and the third phase, which we rip on all the time because the Broncos special teams has just been a trash heap for, probably a decade now. It just seemed, besides the kicker position, I think the kicker's been at least average or a little better. We haven't had like Bears issues at kickers, but the coverage units have been bad. So that's, and honestly, the returners since Trenton Holiday have not been great. So this is one that intrigues me a good amount. We'll talk about this a little bit more, but we got to get to the comments here. Oh, it jumped down on me. There we go. Thank you so much. You're good. That's the one I was going to click.
Well, Duke Boynton coming in again. Appreciate that, Duke, for the excitement of Terry Randall's pod on Thursday. Terry getting his chance on the pod. I'm excited to hear that, and I'm sure you're gonna just blow it out of the water, and all of a sudden Chad's gonna be calling you, going, "Dude, you're a man.
We need some TR."
You're gonna be on. Kevin Peterson coming in with the super chat. Let's start a petition to get Juwan James out of Denver. I'll buy his Virgin Galactic ticket to the moon. Hashtag pound sand. Hashtag still pissed. So
we should talk about this.
Yes. So unfortunately, Broncos are stuck with him next year. His cap hit moves to next season. His dead money hits go to next season. And so next year, 2021, you cut him. He is a $19 million dead money hit to the team. And you think about the fact that the salary cap is probably going to go down. I'm sorry, Juwan James is going to be here in 2021. Unless something absolutely crazy happens. But I guess you could say, it depends. Probably most people are going to be upset about it just because Juwan James is a problem.
Right tackle's been a problem since Orlando Franklin left.
Right. And he's got 63 snaps now in 2 seasons, or what it's going to be 2 seasons.
And next year's an odd season again.
Right. So there's a lot of reasons to be upset about it. But it also then means most likely the Broncos are not looking at replacing 2 tackles in one offseason in 2021. So
well, don't you have to? After he didn't play for like 2 years?
Well, you're still going to be looking for it, at least a developmental player to come in there in some way, some form. I don't know. I'm just trying to look for a little bit of a glimmer of hope of why this could be a halfway okay thing. It's not. I mean, if we're being honest, a starter sitting out is an issue. I mean, I respect his decision, taking care of his new baby. I understand having a new baby. Like it just, you protect him. you do whatever you got to do. And I pretty much bubble wrapped our house when I brought my daughter home. So I understand that side of things, but it does put the team in a real bind. Obviously, offensive tackle position was already shaky. You take away the guy that had the highest upside of the whole group. It's a problem. And
it really lowers the upside of the entire offensive line.
Right.
I mean,
it does.
You saw what the offense looked like the one half that Juwan James was playing. Totally different unit, totally different offense.
Right. And now that possibility is gone. I do want to see what Elijah Wilkinson can maybe look like when he knows he's the starter at right tackle and doesn't every week have to figure out what position he's going to play. But, I still think he's not made for that position. He's not your long-term solution at the position by any means. But again, looking for a little glimmer of hope. I got to be that eternal optimist. I can't lose that in myself. But it is. It's still that one was a punch to the gut.
I am the dog in the room of fire with the drinking his tea, saying this is fine, looking dead in his eyes. I feel like that's been my meme of choice, my eternal essence, all of 2020. But it is a tough position to fill. I think the biggest thing is I know a lot of people are wishing. I mean, I'd say a fair amount of people are wishing ill on Juwan James, and I get again what you said. I get what you're saying about him sitting out the season, given everything that's going on and the newborn. I don't blame Juwan James as much as I blame the Broncos personnel department. I mean, we kind of scoffed at it at the time that it was the Miami Dolphins talking about when the Broncos signed him was the equivalent of a whoopee cushion going off. And we're like, oh, I mean, that's kind of tasteless for a team to poo-poo a guy on the way out. But Dolphins looking like they made the right decision there. Unfortunately for the Broncos, I think the biggest question then is what are you going to do with that money? Because it's I mean, he's gone. He's not going to play. It is what it is. But the money is the biggest question. And this is people aren't going to like this. But given the uncertainty of next year's cap, given all the Broncos they're going to have to pay him next year, all these players that they might have to move on from because of that. I mean, the Broncos have cap space, but I think the move is to do nothing. As horrible as that sounds, because you got to pay him next year. And if the cap shrinks, damn, like I just don't want to cuss, but like that might be the thing to do. Like you have to just sit on your hands because that money will roll over. Then it's kind of just like a negligible cost. But that way, I mean, that might be the difference of keeping AJ Boye. That might be the difference in keeping Jarrell Casey. That might be the difference in extending Justin Simmons or Cortland Sutton.
Right.
So I know it's not in the immediate the way to go. That maybe you can sign a veteran for that Jeff Hireman money, that $4 million that you've created for moving on Hireman. But as far as the Juwan James savings, I think sit on it. Boring. I know boring, but I'd sit on it.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. I mean, I have my guy in free agency that I wouldn't mind the Broncos bringing in. Just he's done decent in his career. Nothing spectacular. You're not going to find anything spectacular on the market right now.
No way.
Even trade wise. Because teams are, I mean, we saw it in the draft. Teams went crazy for offensive tackles. It's the reason Jerry Jeudy fell to the Broncos was because teams snatched those offensive tackles up real quick. And every team is looking for them. There's maybe three players or three teams that are set at both tackle positions.
And even then the depth is not great.
Right.
It's like
somebody goes down, it's done.
I mean, tackle is probably the position where there's the least amount of quality starters outside of quarterback.
Yeah.
Like guys who are actual difference makers. That being said, offensive tackle is probably not as a star there is not as impactful as a star at, say, edge rusher, cornerback, wide receiver. So it's all that roster math. It's all that game of calculus that is building a contending team.
Yeah, it is. And I saw you'd put up names, or I guess maybe that was Buwana that put that up.
Buwana put it up.
Yeah. Okay. So one player I did think that might make a lot of sense for the Broncos to trade for is Okorafor. Am I saying that right?
Okorafor. Yep.
Yeah.
Chukwuma Okorafor.
There we go. The Steelers. He was drafted when Munchak was still with the Steelers. And obviously, any offensive lineman that's drafted is going to get the stamp of approval from Munchak. And he's still a backup, hasn't got a chance to start because they've had quality starters at the tackle positions. So it makes sense, but he's not going to come in and I would say blow anybody away. I mean, there's a reason he's still a backup.
It's like the cornerback approach, where you're getting another name and you're hoping the shotgun approach overwhelms. Just because you have another name with some potential that somebody makes it. But like, what are you giving up for a Chukwuma Okorafor? A fourth? Like at best, a fifth? Are they willing to give it up at that? Because Andre Villanueva is going to be a free agent after the season.
Right. And so that's always the thing is you got to, both sides have to agree to it. And right now, the Broncos need it more than the Steelers need it.
Yes. And the Steelers are not in a position really to be looking to add assets. Big Ben's there right now. They have a window. I mean, the defense is right now. So they're a team that I would think would be more interested in trading picks rather than accumulating them. Granted, every team has a price. But Yeah, again, guys, station identification, as they'd say on the radio. This is Building the Broncos podcast. We appreciate you all being here. Follow us on Twitter at BTB Football Pod. I'm Nick Kendell along with Carl Dumler. This is part of Mile High Huddle. And the most important thing, guys, subscribe, like, and share can help us reach so many more people. We have a lot of listeners that aren't subscribed on YouTube. That can make a world of difference to our shows. Really, I mean, if you appreciate our show and support us in any way and you're not subscribed, then do you really support us? I don't know. I'm going to guilt you guys. No. And Carl, I think you wanted to talk about something as well.
Yeah. So we have, of course, our merch that we highly recommend everybody go get a chance to check out. It's at huddleuppod.com. And I mean, we've got everything from Mile High Huddle, Huddle Up Podcast. Of course, the best looking one is the Building the Broncos trucker hat that we are both wearing here today. Highly recommend that. We got the Building the Broncos short sleeve t-shirt. I haven't got that yet. I've got to get on top of that. And so, of course, we got the new Let Them Hate t-shirt that I think they just put out not too long ago. So, of course, you got your do we have MHI?
It should be coming out. I've seen the pictures of it. I don't know if it's on the website yet.
Okay.
But it will be coming out soon. I'm looking forward to it. It's a pretty cool, unique logo.
Yeah.
So got the Colorado State flag there in the background.
Perfect. All right. Well, so like I said, head on over there, guys. Get some merch. It's some pretty high quality things. I mean, these hats, they are high quality. Yes, I wear it all the time. And so highly recommend anybody take a chance, go look at that stuff, see if you want to buy anything. We really appreciate it. It's another way to support us. And we love all of you, whether you buy our stuff or not. But it looks cool. And it really, it's pretty awesome when I see a picture on Twitter or Facebook of anybody wearing some of our MHH or Building the Broncos merch. Man, it is pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Kevin giving me crap now about the bookshelf. Guys, I'm moving. I'm living in the Quad Cities for 3 weeks until I move across country. So give me a break on the bookshelf. No, give me crap. I don't care. It's fine. Oh, and Chris coming in here. Cheers to MHH fam. Chris, thank you, Juwan, for hitting that one. I saw that one, but it just passed by. Can't stay on, but we'll listen later. Click those little thumbs up. Guys, we do appreciate that as well. The thumbs up on Facebook or wherever you're watching the show matters a lot. Also, we see Christy joining us. Christy, good to see you. Hope things are going well in sunny California. Here we go. Is there a Let Them Hate shirt? Is it the Let Them Hate shirt? Yes, there is a Let Them Hate shirt. And here's the one. We don't need a star at RT. We just need better than Wilkinson with his 10 sacks rendered in part-time duties. I mean, that's very true. I think that is a good point. That being said, Wilkinson was thrust into that position without really that being known. And this is going to be another year with him working under Munchak. So fingers crossed to look a little better. I mean, if he can just look average, I will take it.
Right. Something to keep in mind is Elijah Wilkinson is absolutely loved by the coaching staff, is absolutely loved by Munchak.
Yeah.
And he sees something in the kid. Now, how much he can get out of him, we're going to find out, I guess, this year, kind of unfortunately. But I still think the fact that that's all he's going to practice is right tackle instead of, I mean, like last training camp, he played, I think he played 4 positions on the offensive line throughout training camp and preseason. And I'm sorry, that's that's asking a lot. And I know everybody thinks, okay, well, it's just right or left, block the guy in front of you. It is so much different than that, especially when you get to the NFL, when you got to start worrying about what kind of blitzes they're going to be bringing at you, who's your guy that you got to go get, 3-man, 4-man fronts. Do you have to get to the second level in the run game? Do you have to do double blocks here? Are you pulling? I mean, there's so many different things that play into what it means to be an offensive lineman in the NFL. And learning one position is hard enough. Learning 4 and learning and like feeling good about your footwork and how you're going to hold up on any given play. Yeah, that's asking a lot of a player. I'm not trying to make excuses because he messed up. He had lots of plays where he just got absolutely destroyed. I think of that Kansas City game in the snow. Just gave up a really bad sack. Didn't even hardly. I don't even know if he touched the guy. Like he just kind of stood there almost wanting to help the guard, and all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, there's a guy running right beside me. Maybe I should do something." By that point, it's too late. So again, I'm interested to see what he can do with being at one position, but he's still got a long ways to go for sure.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. I saw somebody ask, what do you guys think about the third cornerback position? We talked about it a little earlier. I think Carl says Bosby, and I think Ojemudia, but gosh, that is anybody's guess. That's probably the question for me in training camp and leading into the season is what's that cornerback position going to look like? Just because I think we do know who's going to play at offensive tackle, just how good are those offensive tackles going to play? It's a big question. I guess the real question is what's Juwan going to do this season? That's really the biggest one.
Yeah.
But James Campbell coming in. James, Riley Reef and Joseph Noteboom might be available trade options. Add in DeMar Dotson as well. I'd feel a lot more comfortable with the tackle situation with some more bodies in the room next year. I definitely agree with you. I'm just curious about how the contract situation works, especially for Riley Reef. Joseph Noteboom, he played tackle in college. I don't know if he has the mobility. It's like a less run blocking able version of Wilkinson as far as his rigidness in his base. So maybe, I mean, the Rams are in a world of, I don't want to cuss. I've just been cussing up a storm here back home, but they're in really a lot of trouble. So that is a big issue cap wise. So maybe they would look into it, but also their offensive line is trash. So I don't know. I don't know if they'd be looking to move him.
I like this one from Glenn Hauser. Can we put the Building the Broncos logo on Carl's other hat? That would be huge amongst our Little House on the Prairie Bronco fans. I'll look into it. I'll talk to Chad, see what we can get figured out on that.
You know what we should do? We should do an edit. I'm so busy. I don't have time for this, but an edit of since you're so big on the home improvement, we should do a Building the Broncos home improvement edit where, you're going to be, I'll be Tim Allen and you can be
Al Borland.
Al Borland. I was like, Al Bundy. Yeah. That's a serial killer. That's not it. So that would be good. That would be, I mean, building the home improvement. It's all right there.
I'll take it, man. And
might have to look into that.
Yeah, we might have to. I think you can pull off Tim Allen.
Can you
do that? Can you do that?
Yes, but I won't subject people on my mic to that. Broncos beat coming in here. This is one that I think we should talk about here, and then maybe wrap it on up unless we get any interesting things in the chat. What do you guys think about Brett Coleman's piece saying that Locke got spooked by not identifying hanging defenders and playing gun shy the last 3 games? He asked Rip to succeed this year. Have you seen the Brett Coleman video yet? I shared it on the community page in Mile High Huddle yesterday.
I didn't.
Okay, so Brett Coleman, really good film analyst, does a lot of stuff on YouTube. And he did identify where Drew Lock, he was playing a little bit looser in the Chargers and the Texans game, again, letting it rip, as he said. And I think that's, real quick. The guy behind the fence is definitely going to be Buwana Beast because he's in here with us, but he's not being seen. So just want to throw that out there. But the Brett Coleman video, I think there is something to be said about that. The one thing I don't think that he gave enough credit to, and one of the big reasons that this guy isn't even here anymore, is that I think a lot of the conservatism from Drew Lock that we saw was due to Rich Scangarello. And Rich Scangarello, his hands were a little bit tied because the offensive tackle, especially week 16 and 17, that offensive line was trash. So guess what, Lock? Get rid of the ball or you're going to get killed. I don't think that he gave enough credence to that, which is a huge factor, in my opinion. But I do think there's something to be said because Locke, I mean, it's good that we didn't see him being that gunslinger where, I mean, you want a little bit of gunslinger, but just being reckless with the ball. But I mean, he highlighted a fair amount of points where, he was definitely right where there was chances where Locke could have moved the football down the field and he just took a little outlet pass. I mean, one reason that Deshaun Hamilton was probably getting the stats he was at the end. So I definitely think there is something to be said about it, but this season will be far more of a telltale in that regard.
Yeah, I always appreciated when Locke talked about after the Kansas City game that he said, I messed up. Like, I can't take some of those risks that I took. And maybe he went a little too far the other way. But
especially against some bad defenses. But they won.
Right.
I mean,
right.
You have a good defense.
In some of those games, the Broncos would get up early and then go absolutely conservative. I mean, they did that all year where they would get up early in the first half and then boom. Yeah, exactly. They put everybody to sleep, 3 and out every single time. And there's a lot of times where I think one of the best stats that Drew Lock showed, I know a lot of people point to the lack of sacks that he gave up, but I like the stat that he was one of the best third down quarterbacks in football.
Yeah.
He kept moving the chains. Like the offense would stall and he would still figure out a way to get it done on third down. And yeah, he didn't put up astronomical stats over those last couple games, but he was also surrounded by some pretty bad talent, a coaching staff that, well, I mean, offensive coordinator's gone.
Yeah.
So I'm interested to see how much that continues into this year. Like if that still shows up where he's being way too conservative, then yeah, that's a concern moving forward. I think it's probably easier. I don't know. Is it easier to rein a quarterback in or to get a quarterback to let loose?
Yeah, no, it depends on what you have around you, right? Some points, if you're losing and the defense is trash, you need to let them let loose a little bit. But if you have a good defense and you're playing some trash opponents like the Lions and the Raiders were last year, especially at home, sometimes maybe being a little bit conservative, maybe being that Derek Carr / Alex Smith is what's needed to win games. Now, is it going to win you the big game? No, but it won you that game. So, I mean, it obviously depends on the opponent and a lot of things. I think that the stat that, and I pointed out about this after Drew Lock's, I think it was his third start, where I was like, guys, this number concerns me, but it was the yards per attempt. Drew Lock, I think it was either 39th or 49th in quarterbacks that started last year in yards per attempt. So granted, again, offensive line trash at the end, conservative play caller, outside of Cortland Sutton, the wide receiver position, not good. But still, you want to see that much higher. But the one that really concerned me when Brett Coleman pointed out was not only was Drew Lock's yard per attempt really low, but it came with like the 14th highest play action per pass attempt. So when you see the play act, typically with play action, I mean, there's a reason Kirk Cousins was so efficient last year and had amazing yards per attempt throwing the ball down the field, was because the Vikings were killer at play action. They had weapons too, but the killer at play action. And Broncos used play action a fair amount, but still the yards per attempt were weak. So it's something to watch. I mean, it's, again, small sample size, but it's something to watch. And I think it's enough of a concern where you have it highlighted.
Yeah, no, you're right. You watch it moving forward, but I just think, especially this year, you go get dynamic weapons because you believe in this kid, because you think that he can really take this offense to that next level. And I don't know, he's done all the right things this offseason. We'll see if that translates to the field, of course. And I mean, we're gonna have to see how, again, the offensive tackle position holds up. I do like probably more with Drew Lock that they focus on the interior than the tackle position, just because he is one of those quarterbacks that is not afraid to step up in the pocket and, take a hit when he needs to make a throw. So you see a lot of these quarterbacks, you saw it with Trevor Siemian a lot of times where he would keep backtracking and just keep running backwards. Last year, Joe Flacco did that sometimes where he just third down, like, I'm just going to book it backwards and hope somebody gets open in a hurry. And
okay, you need to change your words. Book it. He looked like a wounded giraffe.
Okay, book it for Flacco, I guess you should say, which is turtle speed.
Yeah,
but it is where Drew Lock did kind of the opposite, and that's why I know a lot of people said, okay, Garrett Bowles didn't improve. Well, you see what happens when quarterback play improves. What happens? It makes tackles' jobs so much easier, where instead of having to cover a 10 to 15-yard arc, they're having to cover a 5-yard arc. That's a huge difference in what they're having to do. And so Drew Lock's ability to step up, that's why I like that the interior is very, very solid. It's why I don't like the idea of Dalton Reisner moving to right tackle, some people have suggested, because I don't want to weaken the interior. And I know Moody is one that I love Moody, but I can't trust him to stay healthy. He's a rookie. Do you really want two rookies next to each other and Garrett Bowles on the side of one of those rookies? No,
we're not going to see Moody this year.
No,
we're not going to see Moody this year. He's getting a red shirt season.
Unless there are some major, major injuries and they just are like, okay, we're going to have to take a real huge chance here. But no, at least with that interior solidified, they can tell Drew Lock, hey, you're going to have a pocket to step up into. Go ahead and do that.
I mean, good points. Oh, Terry coming in there. Good to see you, Terry. Thank you so much. Christy, how's the puppy? I'm actually staying before we do our big move, staying at the mother-in-law's house, and she has a litter made of that puppy. So it's actually 2 golden retriever puppies right now. And that is both fun and tiring. Goodness. But it's going well. But yeah, Carl, I like your points a lot there. I think that Dalton Risner, true right tackle, at least is an option. But it does concern me a fair amount. I guess the biggest thing is looking at the landscape of the AFC West. Are you more concerned about the interior pass rushers or the edge rushers?
Depends on the team.
Yeah, but overall.
Probably the edge rushers.
And that might be the thing for me. That might be the deciding factor. But I think Risner's best at guard. So, and maybe Garrett Bowles will finally click. God, we've been saying that for how many years now? But and having Risner next to him will help. So, yeah, who knows? I think that you're probably right.
I have a little bit of remembrance of Vasquez moving out to tackle, and that was a terrible experiment.
Yes, it was.
Absolutely terrible. So you take a guy who was an all-pro player at guard and move him to tackle, and all of a sudden he is a below-average tackle trying to do his job, and it just was asking too much. And I love Dalton Risner. I mean, he played tackle in college, so I'm not saying that he couldn't do it. I'm just saying he is great at left guard. He has a chance to be a top 3 guard in the NFL, or at least a top 3 left guard in the NFL. And I just would rather keep that as a strength and make that interior again. You got Glasgow on one side, Risner on the other, probably Cushenberry there at the center position. You can help out that rookie and really make that group a pretty strong unit.
I definitely agree with you there. Well, guys, probably about that time we hit the old dusty trail, as my dad would like to say. He thinks he's a cowboy at heart. He's a poser. No, I'm just kidding. Love you, Dad, if you're watching. But he's a big goober, just like me. This is the Building the Broncos podcast, guys. Again, we want to make sure that you guys subscribe, like, and share. Drop a like, drop a heart react, drop the care react if you can do that on Facebook still. I don't know. But the biggest thing on YouTube, subscribe, like, and share. That helps us the most. I don't want to go into the specifics of it, but if you guys do that, that can help the show reach so many more people, and that means the world to us and can help us all and help the community. I mean, that's what we're all about, honestly. That's the thing that makes this show and all these shows really unique, is that a lot of people are doing podcasts, Broncos or not related, but it's this super chat that we have going on. It's the community that makes it just special. And we see the same names. We see new names every time. We see a lot of these same people. So we really appreciate you guys. We love you guys. You mean the world to us. I mean, you're the reason that we're doing this. Guys, make sure you follow Carl on Twitter at Carl Dumler MHH and myself at Nick Kendell MHH. Go to milehighhuddle.com to see our latest articles, and Mile High Huddle is an affiliate of Sports Illustrated. Besides liking, sharing, subscribing on YouTube, go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a comment. That would mean a lot to us as well. You can follow the Building the Broncos podcast and all our other great audio content by subscribing to this show wherever you listen to your podcast. Follow us at BTB Football Pod. For Carl, I'm Nick, wrapping up another episode of the Building the Broncos podcast. Carl, gosh, it's been too long. Miss you. Hopefully, with this move coming up, guys, I think we're probably going to announce it tomorrow. The wife wants to do some announcement thing, so yes, dear. But that's what we're going to do. So, but should be putting it out on Twitter tomorrow, where we're heading off to, if anybody cares about that. Appreciate all you guys. Any news, Carl? Anything outside the realm of football going on in your world?
Well, going skydiving this week.
Holy snap.
Yep.
Wow.
And actually Lyman, Colorado, heading out there to do some skydiving. So hopefully get up there high enough to see some mountains. But the wife, that's what she wanted to do ever since her 30th birthday. And by golly, she got us signed up, and we're going to go do it.
Wow. Well, that is pretty darn incredible. I get anxiety because I don't want to jinx it. I'll tell you off the air. But so thanks, thanks guys for joining us today. We will see you. I'll see you guys again on Saturday for the Mile High Insiders podcast. But for Carl, I'm Nick, and wrapping another episode of the Building the Broncos podcast. We appreciate y'all. Good night, and go Broncos.